What happens when a hotel CEO goes undercover in his own kitchen and is told to serve food that's already rotting? Hawthorne Riles stood at the back of the dim kitchen hallway, dressed in a wrinkled white cook's shirt, black apron, and a borrowed pair of non-slip shoes 2 sizes too big. He adjusted his fake glasses and scratched at the beard he'd grown out for this. The kitchen of the hotel's midtown location smelled of burnt oil and bleach. Somewhere behind him, dishes clattered and a line cook shouted, "Order up!" He muttered under his breath, "What the hell happened to this place?" 7 years ago, Hawthorne bought the small hotel chain from a retiring couple, cleaned up its finances, expanded it to 7 locations across the state. He'd focused hard on keeping them modern, clean, and community-driven, but lately complaints were rising about food mostly. Cold meals, food poisoning rumors, a few one-star reviews that mentioned spoiled meat. He'd forwarded them to his district manager, but the responses didn't feel right. Kitchen's understaffed, temporary supplier issue, we're handling it. But were they? He hadn't stepped foot in this location since the remodel 2 years ago. None of the kitchen staff had ever met him. The place was corporate-owned, and turnover was high. He'd made sure of that before choosing this one. So here he was going by Henry, supposedly a culinary school dropout looking for a second chance. He'd told the manager he was assigned by a temp kitchen staffing agency they used sometimes. No one asked questions. "Henry!" barked a voice. Hawthorne turned. A tall, lean man in a sweat-stained chef's coat walked toward him. "You're the new prep guy? I'm Chef Lionel. Don't screw around and we'll get along." His eyes darted to the clock. "You're late. I got stuck in traffic, sorry." "Traffic? Show up earlier next time." "Go dice those onions." Hawthorne nodded and moved to the cutting board. The first few hours were chaos. Orders flew in, staff yelled over one another, and the heat from the grills made him sweat through his shirt. The dishwasher was broken, so dishes stacked up fast. A younger woman named Keisha, who looked like she hadn't slept in days, worked the fryer and grill station alone. "You okay?" he asked during a rare quiet moment. She shrugged. "Been better? Chef cut 2 shifts last week. It's just me now." "Why?" "Budget," he said, "but I think he just doesn't like paying people." A door swung open behind them. "Keisha, where's that burger for room 219? Lionel shouted. "Coming!" she yelled back, flipping patties furiously. Later, during break, Hawthorne sat with Keisha in the narrow alley behind the kitchen. She lit a cigarette with shaky fingers. "You like it here?" he asked. She snorted. "I like the guests, some of the staff, but Lionel..." She looked away. "He doesn't care about us. I've seen him reheat stuff that should have been tossed out days ago." Hawthorne's stomach turned. "Like what?" "Chicken, cream sauces. Once he made me serve shrimp that smelled like ammonia." "Did anyone complain?" "Some did. One woman threw up in the hallway." He blamed it on her drinking. The next morning, things got worse. A delivery truck rolled in late. Lionel came out cursing under his breath. "This is it?" he barked at the driver. "Where's the lamb?" "Wasn't on the order." Lionel kicked a crate. "Useless." He stomped back into the walk-in cooler, dragging Hawthorne with him. "We're out of the beef stew batch," he said. "Grab that one from the back." Hawthorne pushed through the shelves. A sealed container sat near the bottom. He popped the lid and immediately jerked back. The stew had a grayish tint, with oil separating on top, and it smelled like sour milk and meat left in the sun. "This is bad," Hawthorne said, backing up. Lionel leaned in, shrugged. "It's fine. Reheat it hot enough. No one knows the difference." Hawthorne stared at him. "You're serious?" "Of course I'm serious. We're not tossing out $50 of stew because it smells funny. Heat it and serve it. It's going into bowls, not a 5-star plate." Hawthorne didn't move. Lionel narrowed his eyes. "Something wrong, Henry?" He hesitated. That could make someone sick." Lionel stepped closer. "Don't get righteous with me. You think I haven't seen worse in other kitchens? You want to keep your job. Do what you're told." Hawthorne nodded slowly, but inside, something snapped. He walked out of the cooler, his jaw clenched. He found Keisha wiping down the prep table. "Keisha, you ever see him do that before?" "All the time." "Anyone ever report it?" She looked down. "Who would listen?" Hawthorne didn't answer. He just walked into the supply closet, sat down on an overturned bucket, and stared at the floor. His heart was pounding. He had built this company to be better than this. But somewhere along the way, he'd let the wrong people lead. And now, people were getting sick under his name. He'd seen enough. Tomorrow, he was coming back, but not as Henry. When Hawthorne arrived the next morning, he wasn't wearing a hairnet or apron. He was in a tailored navy blazer, crisp white shirt, and the expression of a man who had made up his mind. He walked in through the front entrance, nodded at the concierge, and took the hallway that led to the kitchen. A few staff glanced at him, unsure of who he was. One of the housekeepers paused, eyes widening slightly. The moment he pushed open the double doors to the kitchen, the noise dropped. Lionel stood by the prep counter, barking instructions to a new line cook. He turned, clearly ready to snap at whoever had interrupted. "Who are you?" "I'm Hawthorne Riles," he said calmly. "I own this hotel." The room froze. Keisha, who had just clocked in, looked up from the fryer station, eyes widening. The dishwasher, an older man with a hunched back and swollen knuckles, stopped mid-scrub. Lionel blinked, then laughed once under his breath. "You're joking." "No," Hawthorne said, stepping further in. "I came here undercover, as Henry. I worked your prep line for 2 days and watched you serve food that should have been trashed. I saw you cut corners, ignore safety, and push your staff past their limits." Lionel's face turned red. "You can't come in here pretending to be someone else. That's entrapment." "No, it's leadership," Hawthorne replied. "And it's exactly what this kitchen needed." He turned to Keisha. "You free to step outside for a minute?" She nodded slowly and followed him through the side door into the alley. Her hands were still raw from yesterday's back-to-back shifts. "I need the truth," he said. "Not what you think I want to hear." Keisha leaned against the brick wall, arms crossed. "It's bad in there, not just the food. Chef Lionel picks on anyone he thinks won't talk back. He fired a dishwasher 2 weeks ago, told him he was too slow. The guy was 63 and had arthritis. He cried when he left." Hawthorne's jaw tightened. "Why didn't anyone report it?" "Who to?" she said. "You think corporate listens? We send emails and never hear back. And Lionel's smart about it. He never yells on camera, never says anything that HR would catch." "I'm listening now," Hawthorne said. "And that ends today." They re-entered the kitchen. Lionel was pacing near the walk-in cooler. The rest of the staff had gathered quietly near the prep line, uncertain. "You're done here," Hawthorne said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Clean out your locker. Security will walk you out." Lionel scoffed. "You're making a huge mistake." "No," Hawthorne said, keeping his voice steady. "I made a mistake letting someone like you run one of my kitchens. That ends now." Lionel threw down his towel and stormed out, brushing past the sous chef, who stepped back instinctively. Once the doors swung shut behind him, Hawthorne turned to the staff. "I'm not here to make a speech. I'm here to fix what I broke by stepping away for too long. This kitchen deserves better. You deserve better." No one spoke at first. Then the dishwasher raised his hand slightly. "You really own the place?" "I do," Hawthorne said, "and I won't hide from that again." He called in the assistant general manager, a quiet woman named Lillian, who usually handled the front desk. She looked nervous as she stepped into the kitchen in her blazer and low heels. "I need you to help coordinate a temporary kitchen lead," he told her. "Pull someone from the downtown location if we have to. I'll cover their hours. We're rewriting protocols immediately." "Yes, sir," Lillian said, already pulling out her phone. Hawthorne turned back to Keisha. "You're off the floor today. Take a paid rest day." "I'll arrange it myself." She blinked. "But what about—" "The health department's coming this afternoon for a full inspection. We're shutting down the kitchen for the next 24 hours to clean and reset. No one's cooking until every surface is scrubbed and every expired item is tossed." Someone in the back muttered, "Finally." He turned toward the walk-in cooler. "Let's see what else has been hiding in here." He and the assistant manager went shelf by shelf. Expired dairy, half-open containers with no labels, a tray of fish that had gone slimy. Hawthorne pulled out his phone and documented everything. He didn't flinch. He needed to see it all. By noon, the kitchen was closed. Guests were redirected to a nearby partner restaurant with hotel-covered vouchers. The staff, relieved but exhausted, were given the rest of the day off with pay. Hawthorne stayed behind, overseeing the sanitation crew and making calls to senior leadership. When the health inspector arrived, Hawthorne didn't hide in an office. He walked her through every corner of the kitchen, answered every question directly, and committed to a full retraining protocol. After she left, he sat in the empty dining room, the place still smelling faintly of bleach and citrus cleaner. Lillian joined him, sliding into the booth across from him. "We've had complaints before," she said quietly, "but no one ever came to see for themselves." "I trusted the wrong people," Hawthorne said, "and I gave them no reason to be afraid of disappointing me." She looked down at her hands. "You saw what Lionel did in the open. You didn't even see what he was like after hours. He used to lock up the fridge and make staff beg for ingredients, said it cut waste." Hawthorne didn't respond right away. "Tomorrow morning," he finally said, "every manager in this entire region is meeting me in the downtown conference hall. We're going to have a very different kind of conversation." She nodded slowly. "And Lillian," he added, "until a new kitchen manager is hired, I want you overseeing this location's operations. Temporary acting GM, full authority." She stared at him. "I've never run a kitchen." "You've never had the chance," he said. "Now you do." He left the hotel late that evening, the sky turning deep blue over the city skyline. He didn't feel proud. He felt responsible. This wasn't about damage control. It was about rebuilding the trust that had been quietly eroding under his nose. Tomorrow, the real work would begin. By 8 the next morning, the downtown conference hall was buzzing with quiet tension. Every general manager and assistant manager from all 7 hotel locations had been called in. No one had been told why, only that Hawthorne Riles himself would be leading the meeting. That alone put everyone on edge. Hawthorne stood at the front of the room, sleeves rolled up, a single sheet of notes in his hand. He waited until the doors closed and the last latecomer found a seat before he began. "Normally, I'd start this kind of meeting with numbers," he said. "Occupancy rates, margins, guest satisfaction scores. But none of that matters today." He paused, eyes scanning the room. 3 days ago, I walked into one of our kitchens undercover. I saw firsthand what happens when leadership disappears behind spreadsheets. I saw a staff working without support, food safety ignored, and a culture of fear masquerading as efficiency. And it wasn't just a one-off problem. It was a reflection of something we let fester across this company. One of the managers, a man in his 30s with a tight jaw and crossed arms, raised his voice. "Which location? If you're more concerned about whether it was your hotel than what I just said, then you're already part of the problem," Hawthorne replied without hesitation. Silence followed. He turned toward the whiteboard behind him and wrote 2 words in bold marker: accountability and access. From today forward, every kitchen will undergo unannounced internal audits monthly. I've hired an independent hospitality safety consultant to lead them. You won't know when they're coming. There will be no warnings. A murmur passed through the room. He held up a hand. "And before anyone complains about the cost, let me make something clear. The cost of lawsuits, bad press, and staff turnover is higher. Much higher." A woman near the back, with a silver name badge and a calm, thoughtful expression, leaned forward. "What about staff support? If our teams are exhausted, audits won't fix that." "Exactly," Hawthorne said. "That's the second part. Starting next quarter, we're rolling out an employee reporting platform. Direct access to me and to our HR leadership. Anonymous if they choose. If someone's mistreated, they'll be heard. And if they're ignored, I'll know about it." The door opened slightly and one of his assistants stepped in. Hawthorne gave a small nod, and the woman handed him a folder before slipping back out. He opened it slowly. "This is a list of every complaint filed internally over the last 12 months. Most were never escalated. Some were buried. In one case, a prep cook reported being forced to work through a minor burn without treatment. The report was closed without follow-up." He looked up. "That's not a staffing issue. That's a leadership failure." A few heads lowered. No one spoke. "I'm not here to fire anyone today," he continued, "but I'm also not here to protect anyone who continues to ignore what's right in front of them. From this point on, your bonuses won't just depend on revenue. They'll be tied to safety compliance, employee retention, and guest satisfaction tracked independently." He walked to the side of the room and leaned against the wall. I'll be visiting every location, unannounced, not just as a CEO, but as someone walking through the same doors your staff does. If I see what I saw this week again, if anyone is cutting corners or mistreating people, it won't be a conversation. It'll be termination. He let the words settle for a moment, then his tone shifted just slightly. But I also saw something else this week. I saw employees who kept showing up, even when they weren't treated fairly. People who still cared when they had every reason not to. He walked back to the center of the room. They're the reason we're still standing, and they deserve better. So, we're going to give it to them. After the meeting, he didn't rush out. He stayed behind, speaking quietly with a few department heads, shaking hands, and answering questions directly. Later that afternoon, he returned to the Midtown location. The kitchen was quiet, still closed for cleaning. The health inspector's report had come back clear barely. It included a list of required improvements that had already been set in motion. He stepped into the back office, where Lillian sat at the desk, reviewing vendor invoices. "Got a minute?" he asked. She nodded and stood. "I read through the personnel files," he said. "You've been passed over for promotion 3 times, despite outperforming your peers in every performance review." She looked away for a moment, then back. "It's fine. I've never been the loudest in the room." "That's not a weakness," he said. "It's a style, and it's one we need more of." She didn't respond, but he could see her shoulders ease just slightly. "I've got a proposal from corporate to bring in a new kitchen manager from another region," he continued. "But I'm not sure I want to do that." She watched him carefully. "I think we need someone who's already earned the trust of this team," he said. "Someone who knows what's broken and wants to fix it." "You're asking me to run the kitchen?" she asked. "I'm asking you to take on leadership of this entire location," he said. "Acting GM, full authority, full support. If it works, we make it permanent." She didn't hesitate. "Then I'll do it." That evening, he sat down with the remaining kitchen staff, just 4 of them, and laid out the plan. "We're restaffing completely," he said. "Hiring starts tomorrow. You'll be part of the interview process. Anyone you wouldn't trust on your line, we don't hire." Keisha, sitting across from him, with her arms crossed and still wearing her apron, raised an eyebrow. "You serious?" "I wouldn't say it if I wasn't," he said. "You've earned that say." She leaned back slightly. "All right. Then I've got a list of things we need, starting with a second fryer station. Ours backs up every night." "Send it to Lillian," Hawthorne said, "and we'll get it done." One of the younger cooks, barely out of high school, hesitated before speaking. "Can I ask something?" "Go ahead. Why now?" "Why didn't anyone care before?" Hawthorne didn't dodge it. "Because I got comfortable. I thought systems could replace presence. I thought policies could replace people. I was wrong." No one responded right away. But something shifted in the room. Not trust yet, but the beginning of it. He stood. "I'll be back in a few days, not to check up on you, to see what you've built." As he left the kitchen, the sound of quiet conversation picked up behind him. Ideas, lists, plans. It wasn't noise, it was momentum. Outside, a light rain had started. He stepped into it without hurry, letting it fall. For the first time in a long time, he didn't feel like a CEO trying to control a company from the top floor. He felt like a leader doing the work, the real work, the kind that started in kitchens, not conference rooms. A week passed. The Midtown Hotel kitchen remained closed to guests, but inside, it was anything but quiet. The air smelled of pine sol and fresh paint. A new tile backsplash had just been installed over the prep area. The broken dishwasher was replaced and humming steadily. Everything that could be repaired had been. What couldn't be fixed had been thrown out entirely. Lillian stood at the center table with a clipboard in hand. Her sleeves were rolled up. Her blazer swapped for a clean chef coat. She wasn't cooking, she wasn't pretending to be something she wasn't, but she was present. Every hour, every shift, the staff noticed. Across from her, Keisha leaned on the stainless steel counter, watching a man in his early 40s demonstrate how to truss a roast. He moved with practiced ease, speaking as he worked. "See how the twine holds the shape? It's not just presentation, it cooks evenly this way." Keisha nodded. "Makes sense. You ran your own kitchen before?" 15 years, the man said. "Left after the new owners gutted the staff. Figured I'd find somewhere that gave a damn." "We're trying to be that," Lillian said, glancing up from her notes. He looked at her, then at Keisha. You already are. The man's name was Andre, one of 4 candidates interviewed for the head chef role. The staff had chosen him unanimously. Not because he talked big, he didn't, but because he listened. During his interview, he'd asked Keisha to walk him through the current process, step by step, before offering any suggestions. That had impressed everyone more than any resume. Now he was leading a test shift, not for guests, but for the team itself. They were cooking together, checking workflows, catching snags before the reopening. Everything was being rebuilt from the ground up. In the back corner, 2 new hires were learning the dish station. One was a quiet man in his 50s who had been laid off from a nearby restaurant. The other, a young woman fresh out of culinary school, worked fast but methodically. Andre rotated between stations, correcting gently, demonstrating with clear hands. Lillian stepped aside as Hawthorne entered. He was in worn jeans and a pullover dressed down, but not trying to blend in. The staff knew who he was now, and he made no effort to hide it. He walked straight to the line, nodding to Keisha and Andre. How's it feeling? He asked. Andre wiped his hands on a towel. Systems are clean. Staff is learning fast. 2 more weeks of this, we'll be ready. We don't have 2 weeks, Lillian said. Leadership wants us open by Monday. Hawthorne glanced at her. What do you think? She didn't hesitate. We'll be ready, but only if we hold the line on standards, no shortcuts. Good, he said, then turned to Keisha. And you? She crossed her arms. Feels different, not perfect, but honest. That's a start. He stayed for 3 hours, not hovering, just observing. When the training wrapped for the day, he pulled Lillian and Andre into the office. I want full contracts drawn up for the entire kitchen team, he said. No more hourly temps cycling through without benefits. If they commit, we commit. Andre nodded. We'll get stronger work out of them if they know they're not expendable. Lillian tapped her pen. What about wages? He slid a folder across the desk. Approved raises across the board. We're bringing base kitchen pay up 15%, fully funded by cutting excess at the corporate level. Neither of them said anything for a moment. Then Andre leaned forward. Most places talk like that when the cameras are on. We're not most places. Outside the office, the team lingered near the prep area. They weren't rushing home. They were comparing notes, cleaning tools, helping the new hires organize their stations. Hawthorne watched for a moment before heading out. The next morning, the reopening was quiet by design. No ribbon cutting, no press. Just a sign posted in the lobby. Kitchen now open, come hungry. Guests trickled in. A few regulars recognized the change immediately. Dishes came out hot, plating was consistent, and servers briefed thoroughly checked in at every table. No one overpromised. They just delivered. At noon, an elderly couple from the 3rd floor complimented the soup. Tastes like someone actually cared when they made it, the man said. Keisha, collecting plates nearby, heard it and smiled not wide, just enough to register. Back in the kitchen, Andre called for a 30-second pause. It wasn't for celebration. It was logistics. Prep station's backing up, he said. We need a second hand there until the lunch rush slows. The young woman from culinary school raised her hand. I can cover. My station's caught up. He nodded, no praise, no ceremony. Just trust, passed silently. By the end of the day, no one had missed a step. No one broke down in the walk-in. And no expired food had come within reach of a ladle. 2 days later, Hawthorne returned with a single sheet of paper. He handed it to Lillian in the office. She read it and blinked once. You're making it permanent? Effective immediately. She set it down on the desk, but didn't move. I thought I'd feel more excited, she said. You've been doing the job already, he said. Today's just the paperwork catching up. She looked out through the office window, where the team was finishing dinner service. I want a quarterly feedback loop, she said. Anonymous. For the whole staff, not just when things go wrong. Approved. And I want a rotating mentorship program. Pair new hires with experienced staff. Give them someone to ask before they panic. Write it up. She turned back to him. And I want to have the authority to remove anyone, at any level, who disrespects this space. No warnings for things that cross the line. You have it. She nodded once, then reached for the staff schedule to begin adjusting for next week's shifts. That evening, Hawthorne walked the perimeter of the building alone. The city was cooling down, neon lights beginning to reflect off the pavement. He stopped near the loading dock, where weeks earlier he'd seen rotten stew passed off as serviceable food. The smell was gone, the rot too. He didn't stand there long. Inside, the team was closing for the night, laughing under their breath, scrubbing down with practiced ease. It wasn't perfect, it wasn't easy, but it was real, and it was theirs now. His job wasn't to be the hero. It never had been. His job was to stay close enough to know when something was wrong and never, ever wait again to make it right.